Welcome, everyone. My name is Gladys Rama. I'm the editorial director here at redmondmag.com, and I am so pleased to be moderating both sessions today in our summit, Microsoft Inspire 2022 Roundup, Hot News, and What You Missed. This has been brought to you by the great folks at Metallic, a Commvault venture, so thank you to our sponsors today, Metallic. This event has been also developed by the editorial staff at redmondmag.com. They worked really hard to bring together some of the best independent experts on this topic for this event, so we really hope you enjoy it. We have a great couple of sessions for you. Before we start today's event, with these two great sessions, we do have a couple of announcements. First of all, this event is being recorded, so keep an eye out for an email from us with a link to the replay. It'll generally come in the next couple of days. Second, each of today's two sessions will be followed by a 5 to 10 minute Q&A. So as you come up with your questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A area of your console, and we'll get them answered to you we'll get as much of them answered during the sessions. And if not, we'll get back to you after the session. So don't worry. Just put your questions in there as they occur to you. Next, at the third of today's second session, we are giving away a Rad Mission 1 electric hybrid bike. So you have to be present to win, so please be sure to stay on for the entire event. And finally, from our sponsors at Metallic, we do have a couple of resources that are on the console right now for you. So do check those out, download them, ask questions about them. The Metallic folks will be looking at all the questions. It's because of Metallic underwriting this content that we can bring you this Inspire Roundup. So we thank them for sponsoring this event and supporting the community, and we ask you to check out those resources so we can bring you more events like this in the future. And now we're going to move on to the first session of today. This is the great panel talk rounding up the Microsoft Inspire news. It's called Microsoft Inspire 2022 Review in 50 Minutes. This roundtable features Howard M. Cohen, whom you all probably know. He's a regular summit presenter here. He's the senior resultant at the Tech Channel Partners Results Group. We also have Chris Paoli. He's the editor at redmondmag.com. He covers all things security for Redmond. And myself, again, I'm Gladys Rama. I'm the editorial director at redmondmag.com. So let me get to my slides now. Let's get started. Before we get into the themes first, we just wanted to talk about how Inspire tends to affect the IT pros. I know we have a lot of IT pros in the audience today. Inspire, and it used to be called Worldwide Partner Conference, was, as the name suggests, a very partner-centric Microsoft conference. But, you know, if you're in IT and you work with an MSP for your managed security services, or you work with a third-party vendor for your backup and recovery services, it's a good idea to know the direction that Microsoft is steering its partners, because it's going to affect you at the end, you, the partner's customer. So we're going to hopefully touch base on all the news from Inspire that affects you, the customer, the IT customer, trickling down from the partners through you. So let's get started. We're going to look at the key themes here. Actually, before we get started, Howard and Chris, just to, you know, get the vibe of the room here. Howard, how many Inspires has this been for you?
Yeah, I haven't kept count, but I was thinking about it when you mentioned that you were going to ask this question. I went to my first Microsoft conference in 1982, so I've probably been to at least 40, although they didn't start calling, well, they started calling it Fusion around 1996, around 2003, I'm sorry. In 1996, they had the Internet Information Summit. We went to that. I went to Fusion. They combined it when they bought Great Plains. They combined it with Stampede, and it became the Worldwide Partner Conference. I only missed one or two along the way. And of course, Inspire has kind of been, crippled by COVID for a couple of years. So if there have been 20 of them, I've probably been to 16 or 17 of them.
Oh, yeah. So you have a lot to compare to this past one from last
and I'm
week
extremely
to.
Yes.
Chris, how about you? I know you covered a lot of Microsoft conferences, but how many partner conferences have you closely followed?
Yeah, I am trying to catch up to Howard. This was actually number one for me, actually covering it closely. I've kind of kept my ear to it in the past, but like you said, I've covered Build a lot more and Ignite. So it was interesting to kind of just jump into the whole partner conference landscape this year, and it was a great conference.
Yeah, definitely. And you'll have a lot to compare to, actually, so based on your experiences with Build. So, all right, so let's get started with some themes just to give everyone a broad overview of what Microsoft was getting at, what direction its messaging was at during Inspire. So none of this is a surprise. First, Azure. This is a huge theme. Cloud in general, and how much more enterprises are living and dying by it nowadays, especially during the last 3 years. Next big theme of the conference is collaboration. Of course, Microsoft has a stake in this. It's really leaning hard on its Teams platform and how those kinds of collaboration tools help support hybrid work, keep it existing, and keep it seamless for enterprises. Next is the security, the old bugbear for IT. Nadella spent a lot of time during Inspire talking about how attacks are getting more sophisticated, expensive, and high stakes. So it's not just mom and pop shops. It's everyone from mom and pop shops to government entities to Fortune 500s, everyone in between. Data management was also a great point for Nadella. I think at one point he said, this is the age of AI. And his point was that data and AI are inextricable at this point. And then something a little bit less broad, more time sensitive. 2023 needs to be the year of migration. That was a statement from a Microsoft exec during the Inspire keynotes, and they actually gave a figure putting the data migration opportunity for partners at $34 billion, which is an immense amount of money. Chris, regarding this last point, because it's the one that is, not as evergreen as the others, what is it about 2023? I know that there are some Microsoft products that are falling off the deadline cliff in the next couple of months. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. 2023 is going to be a huge year for sunsetting some of Microsoft's older products. I think the standouts are definitely Windows 8.1, Windows RT, Visual Studio 2012, and Windows Server 2008 and 2008 R2 are probably the biggest ones. Microsoft is also halting support for Office 2013 and all versions of its BizTalk 2013. Another notable end of servicing is for Windows 10 20H2, which includes Enterprise, Education, IoT, Pro, and Home losing support. This might sound like a big deal, but most have already migrated to 21H1, 21H2, or just completely to Windows 11. But it's going to be a busy year for IT who need to get off these older products and services that are just not going to be secure anymore.
Right. And then, of course, because it's a partner conference, Microsoft is urging its partners to help out its IT customers get off those. I think it's a lot of the 2013 branded servers. That's a big deal. All the 2013 branded servers and the Office 2013 products. Howard, was there, besides these themes, was there another through line that you caught from the Inspire conference? or anything that stood out to you as being a little bit different from the last ones that you've seen?
Well, actually, Gladys, I think there's a through line that cuts through all of these. And for those of you who've been involved with Microsoft over the years, you know that everything happens in cycles at Microsoft. Now they're saying that enterprises are living and dying by the cloud. Well, yeah, they were one of the first to embrace the cloud. Vahe Tarosian from Microsoft announced that if you don't adopt the cloud within the next 4 years, you will become irrelevant. That was 12 years ago. And so he was absolutely right. But I think what I saw here is that once again, Microsoft is in the mode of trying to be all things to all people again. Microsoft for a while got really, really focused. It was the cloud-first, mobile-first provider. Now, of course, the security is the thing that jumps out the most at me. They are now competing with everybody. They've got entries in every part. I mean, if you look at Priva and a few of the others, they are introducing their own version of zero trust. I didn't see the word zero trust anywhere, but they're talking about what is zero trust, and they're trying to own it. And back in 2006, Steve Ballmer got up on the stage and literally shook, because they had been beaten up so badly about security. And here we are, 16 years later, 14 years later, and they're still trying to own it more than ever before.
Yeah.
So I think this is the year that they go back to, we want to be everything to everybody, and all of the peripheral software developers really have to take a good hard look at their offerings to see if they can compete.
Yeah. Yeah, great point. And great point about the zero trust thing, actually, because that comes up a lot in Microsoft's materials, to its press, to its announcements, that term zero trust. But you're right, I didn't really clock it during the Inspire keynote. So that is quite interesting. Right, next, before we get into a psychoanalysis of Microsoft's marketing materials, we're going to get to the meat. We're going to get to the meat of this session, the top news for IT pros. And again, a lot of this is, was targeted at partners, but it's going to wind down to you guys in the audience if you work with a partner, or if this is just technology that you touch every day, which in all likelihood you do. So we're going to start with Teams. A lot of, Microsoft is constantly updating Teams. It's really the centerpiece. It's the crown jewel of its productivity offerings. So new and upcoming that was announced at Inspire for Teams. So this was a kind of interesting if you're looking to jazz up your Excel spreadsheets, and I'm only being a little bit sarcastic here, but Excel Live. So this is basically where everyone in a Teams meeting can participate and collaborate on an Excel file within the meeting window in real time. So this is still to come. We don't have an announcement, a release date yet. Chris and Howard, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe we have a release date for that yet. And then next, kind of in a similar vein, this is so the video clips feature. This is a social media-esque feature that is coming to Teams. Again, we don't have the release date for it yet, but it'll let users within a meeting share and record short videos. So I know that this was panned a little bit when Microsoft announced it because it was too Instagram-like. But I do believe that there is a use for this. A lot of firms, a lot of, startups possibly, or, really close-knit creative teams, I think they'll find a lot of use for this. And then next we have collaborative annotations. This is now available, so you should be able to access this feature now. So this collaborative annotations feature works with the Whiteboard app that's in Teams, and participants in a meeting can interact with any object that's in that whiteboard in real time. I think that's pretty useful. And, I would really like to check this out this week sometime since it's already available. And then I think the big one, Chris, I'm going to pick your brain about, was the Teams Connect shared channels. This is also now available. It's supposed to facilitate collaboration across organizations. Chris, I think of these 4 updates, Microsoft was really underscoring the Connect shared channels feature. Can you talk a little bit about this one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it is a big deal, and I think anybody who's tried to work with others in other organizations have been asking for a feature like this in Teams since probably day one. So shared channels is a very important in extending the collaboration options, it seems. With the individuals and groups can share team channels without being under the same organizational rooftop. Using Azure AD B2B Direct Connect, IT can invite outsiders to a shared chat channel. Cross-tenant settings on both ends must be configured, so IT from every organization in the shared channel will need to set it up, so everybody knows what's going on at all times. Once invited, they would only have to access the shared channel and won't be able to access any of the other team channels from the invitee. Once in, everyone invited can collaborate as much as the shared team leader has designated. Like I said, I think we all work not only with our own teams and our own organizations, but we work with other folks in other organizations. So I think this was an evolutionary step that just made sense, and I'm glad Microsoft is finally starting to roll it out. They didn't announce it at this show. It's been in preview for a while, but initial thoughts are it does what it's supposed to do. So I think this really is a game changer for Teams.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy that it took this long to arrive.
Mm-hmm.
Howard, do you have any thoughts here on the Teams stuff?
I have a couple of questions for the audience to ponder. The first question is, looking at these 4 new announcements, how many of them have you not been able to do before? How many of you have not been able to collaborate on Excel spreadsheets? How many of you have not been able to send video clips to each other? How many of you have not used a whiteboard to annotate and to draw content simultaneously? And I guess the 4th one, I would phrase it this way. How much more confusing could Microsoft make Federation? Teams has been a very confusing place. Prior to Teams, other incarnations of Microsoft Communications, Federation has always been a challenge. But now I think they've succeeded in making it more confusing than it's ever been. And now they're trying to make the more confusing less confusing. I think that there are better ways to do it, but I guess we have to wait and see how well shared channels works.
Right. Yeah, that was a great question. Great question and a great point. For me personally, for Teams, this is kind of a selfish editorial standpoint that I'm coming at it from, but I was really hoping for the metaverse hook to show up in Teams for not industry users. So metaverse for industry, that's already been a thing for years now. But Microsoft has been teasing metaversey things for its collaboration platform for like a good 2 years now, and I still haven't gotten it. And I mean, that was I was on my personal wish list, Howard. Was there something that you wanted? Was it the metaverse thing too? Was it something totally different?
Yeah, in terms of the metaverse thing, I have this dream of being Einstein talking to Clippy. I don't know how many people in the audience remember them, but they were the support help characters, and they were great. Microsoft did away with them fairly quickly because people were laughing at them. But I just want to offer the audience a channel perspective that may be helpful. In the channel, Microsoft has always provided us with what they refer to as the big bet. There is some platform that they've introduced that is their big bet. The one that everybody seems to point at that they remember is SharePoint. SharePoint was a big bet. If you get into SharePoint, you are really doing what Microsoft wants you to be doing. More recently, Azure has been the big bet. Of course, BPOS and then Office 365, now Microsoft 365, have been the big bet. But now, and for the past few years, Teams has been the big bet. And the reason I'm talking about this is because one thing has been true of everything that has ever been the big bet, and that is eventually it's overstuffed. SharePoint ballooned out to being like all things to all people. Dynamics CRM has so much functionality that nobody can make heads or tails of it. And I'm seeing it now that Teams is it's good that it's becoming the centerpiece, but I think we have to watch out and not get too centralized, not stuff more into Teams than can be supported in one platform. That flexibility, that agility still needs to be there. And that's always the danger of the big bet. You're making sure that you see the lack of, the reduction of agility coming and respond to it and diversify. I don't know if that was really clear, but I think you get the idea.
Right. Yeah, some kind of breaks on the feature bloat, I think, is the overarching argument that you're putting there.
Perfectly stated.
Absolutely fair.
Howard,
Okay, so
I kind of wanted to pick your brain. Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to pick your brain real quick on something interesting you said earlier about connect shared channels, where you alluded that you had a better path for Microsoft. Can you maybe elaborate on that? What do you think they should be doing?
I'm sorry, Chris. Be a little more specific. With what?
So you said connect shared channels was a good direction, but in your opinion, there was a better path to get that collaboration.
I don't think it's a path. I think I'm not exactly sure how to answer your question.
Okay.
I think that Microsoft has done more than anybody else to promote collaborative tools. And I think that they've had functionality out there for a long, long time, like, for example, Excel Live. That functionality's been out there for a long, long time. And those people who were willing to live through the learning curve have been able to take advantage of it. It was difficult. They're trying to make it easier, and I think that's always good. But I think Microsoft is famous for renaming things and reintroducing things. And I think we have to be careful when we characterize something as new, that we remain credible. It's not new. It's just that we're taking a new approach to it. We're trying to make it better. We're trying to improve it. And there's nothing wrong with that, ever.
Right. Yeah, and we're going to get to some new but not really new products down the line here. You're right. The Microsoft penchant for rebranding things, it's a great way to confuse even the people who cover Microsoft. So for us to be able to try to make sense of it for its customers, I think it's a great service, but also I need help getting that stuff straight. So, all right, we're going to move on to Viva, which is, I don't know if the audience is quite familiar with it yet, as familiar with it as they are with Teams, but this is a collaboration platform. So it's Teams adjacent, kind of, but Microsoft didn't announce this until early last year. So if you haven't heard of it, if you haven't had a chance to try it out, it's because it is one of those fairly recent product brands that Microsoft rolled out. So Viva is a Microsoft 365 collaboration platform that Microsoft is really pushing to be a remote work platform. So it's mostly aimed at internal use. It addresses HR issues, issues like employee training, giving employees access to internal documents, internal communications, that sort of stuff, which sounds familiar because it also sounds like SharePoint and also sounds like Yammer. And now it's called Viva. So yeah, so Microsoft, there's already a couple of Viva modules that are available. So what Microsoft announced with Inspire first as being available is Viva Engage. So this is what like I mentioned earlier, a Yammer-ish product. It adds consumer-like social networking capabilities for internal teams. So if that's something that you want, some people, they don't really want to do social media for work, which I totally understand, but for companies where that would be useful, Viva Engage is now available. Next, we have Viva Gold, which is like an employee development platform product. Basically, it keeps track of employees' goals, personal goals, and companies' overall goals, and then just kind of make sure that there's alignment between the two. So that's coming in Q3 of this year. And then finally, we have Viva Sales that's coming in Q4. And, as the name suggests, that's for sales teams. This module surfaces sales data in all the various Microsoft 365 apps, Dynamics 365, I'm sure, and it surfaces all that information so that it's handy for salespeople in your organization to get a hold of when they're reaching out to their sales contacts. And the thing with Viva that I find curious is Viva currently has 10 million users, right? Teams has 270 million monthly active users. Howard, if you already have Teams, do you need Viva? I know that there's some overlap, but there's also the Venn diagram. It's not a perfect circle, but where do you think Viva fits in this Teams first world that Microsoft has been pushing so hard for the last couple of years? If you were an IT org, do you propose it to your people to get on Viva too?
I think that being a long-time Microsoft observer, if I've learned one thing, it's that you have to really look to where Microsoft is going, not where Microsoft is. For example, Azure, perfect example. If you go back a decade or so, man, people were talking about Azure as a platform that was going to go away. Everybody was eating their lunch. And when I posed that to Dave Waldrop, who was the product director for Azure at that time, he said, yeah, I know. And he was blasé about it. So you think about it, now Azure is the center of their universe. So you really have to look at where they're going and what their intentions are. With Viva, I think Viva will be their brand for products that put artificial intelligence to use in managing people. I was scared by the Viva sales presentation because it talked about Viva coaching salespeople. And I tried to imagine having a computer coaching me on how to sell. And somehow or other, I saw salespeople all over the planet, taking sledgehammers to their computers and smashing them to smithereens because you can't teach me how to sell. I think it's scary. The most brilliant people in the world are afraid of AI, certainly, but I think Viva is where they're going to integrate AI into the user interface. It's another one of their brands, like Power is one of their brands. I think it's a dangerous one because when I think of Viva, I think of paper towels. So they may want to choose a better name. But no, seriously, I think that everything they're doing here is about making it easier for people to be people and do what they need to do. And that sounds great. That's the application of AI into our lives in a productive way. That's all good. I just think maybe they have to be a little less ooh-ah about it. I don't know.
Yeah. But it's interesting. We're going to have to track where the AI developments fit around Viva because that's not an explicitly stated thing that Microsoft has said about Viva, but you can see that, the underpinnings are there. which would make sense for what Viva is trying to do. But yeah, it would be interesting to see the implications here.
I know. I wrote an article several years ago. I wrote an article several years ago about AI, and I quoted 3 people who were basically saying we have to be very careful with AI. AI can have terrible, horrible, catastrophic results. And the 3 people were Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and Stephen Hawking, 3 of the most brilliant people in the world. So you have to take it serious. I think that Microsoft is taking a very sober approach to AI, but you have to stay on top of that.
Definitely. All right, Windows 365, not much of an AI element here, I think, thank goodness. But so Windows 365, again, like Viva, fairly new. It's a year old. Actually, it was announced at last year's Inspire. So, if you're in IT and you haven't had a chance to play with this yet, don't blame you. It's been about just a year. So this is Microsoft's desktop as a service solution, which of course there's already an Azure virtual desktop as a service solution. The difference between the two is Windows 365 is a little bit, is a simpler deployment. Azure virtual desktop is a more customizable deployment. And what Windows 365 does, it'll let you remotely access a cloud PC, what Microsoft calls a cloud PC, that's hosted in Microsoft servers. So a couple of new things here for Windows 365 announced at Inspire. Chris, I'm going to let you handle talking about this one, but first I'll describe it in broad strokes. This is integration with Citrix HDX Plus. This release, I don't think we have a date for it yet, but it's basically just to streamline the remote desktop experience for users, so that, it eats up less bandwidth. You can host more users per server. See here. Next up, also, Cloud PC auto enrollment is coming to Windows 365. No set date yet, but this would basically facilitate the enrollment of these cloud PCs. So you'd be able to enroll them basically like physical devices using Microsoft Endpoint Manager, which is handy. And then a couple of additions for government folks. We have 2 more flavors coming, Community Cloud and Community Cloud High for government users of Windows 365. Again, no set release date yet. I'm assuming that's coming within the year. But the Citrix HDX one, that's the one I'm curious about. Chris, what do you know about this product? Or actually, that's pretty self-explanatory. I have it in my notes that it just decreases bandwidth use for desktop as a service. So,
no, I think you covered it.
Yeah, I had it in my notes to ask Chris, but actually, you're safe on this one, Chris. Yeah, so this is interesting with Howard. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No. If I can interject a couple of points. At this time, if you look at the stats, 3/4 of Windows users are still on Windows 10. And I think that's a pretty important stat to consider when you're looking at this. Windows 11 is slowly catching up, and it will still, take some time. It always takes a year or 2. But Windows 365, I couldn't find stats for how many people have actually adopted it. The concept of a cloud PC is more generic, actually, than just Microsoft. Matter of fact, to talk about Citrix, the former CEO of Citrix, Mark Templeton, is now chairing a company that offers cloud PCs. And that their cloud PCs run on any one of the major hyperscaler cloud services. But a cloud PC is something you can provision. You need a PC, you need a complete PC ready to rock and roll? We'll provision it to you. What do you want in it? How much memory? How much storage? It comes completely prepackaged. And it's a great idea, but it's a concept that is somewhat alien to everybody. So I think in terms of seeing more adoption, first I think we need to do better at defining cloud PC especially so that people understand the difference between that and VDI, because it is different.
Mm-hmm.
It's radically different. It is easier to deploy HDX in a cloud PC framework. So this is going to take some time. And I think Windows 365 will be another one of those products that stays quiet for a while the foundation gets laid, and then we can build the building on top of it.
Right.
I'm excited about Cloud PC because it divorces the hardware from the software completely. And that's what we need to do at this point.
Right. No, and that makes sense, especially the way that people are working now. This just makes sense. This type of solution does make sense. All right, this is the one that, Chris, I had in my notes to bother you about, not the Citrix thing.
Yeah.
Microsoft Cloud for Sovereignty. This is a big piece of news from Inspire. Microsoft announced that it's now in private preview. What is this, Chris? What kind of problem is this going to solve for Microsoft Cloud users?
Yeah, sure. So Microsoft Cloud for Sovereignty aims to assist public sector orgs in meeting state and federal security and policy requirements when processing data. The goal is to meet adequate data sovereignty, operational sovereignty, and technical sovereignty. The major problem this looks to address is just where data lives, where data is stored, where data is located at any time. Cloud for Sovereignty looks to solve this by giving IT the ability to control what geographical location or country the data is being stored and transmitted. It also comes packed with Sovereign Landing Zone, which Microsoft said will simplify data classification requirements, specifically surrounding the architecture, deployment workflow, and provision of intelligent tools to orchestrate operations across Microsoft security services. Finally, it's going to bring a new level of transparency by expanding the Microsoft Government Security Program with Azure hooks to give an IT just a better look at their data in the cloud. So again, this is to hopefully cut through some of the red tape that a lot of public sectors have to face in their day-to-day business.
Right. And they have customers all over the world, as well as employees around the world. And I think managing geographic specific, like country specific data privacy rules, for instance, for each of those things, for each of those markets that you have touch points in, it's a juggling act for IT.
Well, This is actually the macro version of all the people who were nervous about storing their data in the cloud at all. If you go back, 10 years, 12, 15 years, when cloud was first introduced, everybody was scared of it because it wasn't secure. My data has to, the quote that I remember hearing over and over again was people saying, my data has to be within my four walls, which was ignorant because, there's a cable coming through your four walls from the internet. So your four walls aren't protecting you. Now, the macro version is this data must reside in my country. It can't be physically anywhere else. When you come down to it, that is a problem that cloud created. You didn't have that problem before cloud. And so now cloud is solving a problem that they created. There are many parallels to this in consumer products, but we won't get into them. It really is simply that. There are countries that say that data can't be anywhere but here, and maybe someday that'll change. But this is Microsoft's approach to solving that problem, which is terrific.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like a smart approach for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Nadella did mention during his Inspire keynote that Azure is coming to 10 more regions in the next year. So combined with sovereignty, this Cloud for Sovereignty product, plus, just the increasing its footprint so that more people in different regions can have their own local cloud. I think that'll go toward a long way toward fixing this problem that you described, Howard. Not fixing it, but maybe mitigating it a little bit so that it's less of a mire to get through.
fulfilling the requirement. That's really what it's about.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. Another big piece of news, of course, we have this very intuitive.
I'm sorry, Gladys. I'm sorry. Just by the way, one of the features of Cloud PC is that if you have the image for your Cloud PC functioning in the data center nearest you, Microsoft having hundreds of data centers all over the world and installing more of them can actually benefit everybody now. Because if you have your Cloud PC stored physically, geographically close to where you physically are, you will get reduced latency in that Cloud PC. You'll get better performance. And so, for the first time in a very real sense, the number of data centers available becomes a value proposition to every client. If you have people spread out all over the world, especially. I'm sorry, I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that.
No, that's a great point. Okay, we're going to move on to another big piece of news from Inspire. As I was mentioning, this is a very reader-friendly, accessible diagram from Oracle explaining the Oracle database service for Microsoft Azure, which is generally available. But Chris, I'm going to need you to demystify this for me and for a lot of people in the audience right now. What is this?
Yeah, sure. I think the takeaway from that confusing diagram is just look at the arrows, where are the arrows pointing.
Yeah.
So Oracle Database Service for Azure, hit its general availability milestone. For those that don't know, the product brings together Oracle and Azure and presents a single dashboard for monitoring both. The key feature is the ability to create and migrate apps from one to another. And what Microsoft said is just takes a few clicks. I don't know what a few clicks means, but hopefully it doesn't take more than 15 minutes. Microsoft at Inspire last week touted this as the next evolution of the Oracle-Microsoft partnership that's been going on for almost 20 years now. So I think this was Microsoft's I think they showed a really strong partnership at this conference and showed off what it really means to be a Microsoft partner. And I think it's paying off dividends for both Microsoft and Oracle and for everybody who uses both those services.
Right, for partners that have customers using joint customers for them. Right. I want to bring up this. This is a slide. Well, this is what came up on my screen when this was announced during the Microsoft keynote. And that's, of course, Nadella on the right there and Oracle CEO Larry Ellison on the left. This was surreal for me to see. So I'm glad I was able to capture it on screen. And then I think our colleague Kurt Mackey, who's the news producer on Redmond, he retweeted this and called it cats and dogs, mass hysteria. Howard, what is this, Nadella has the reputation of being the open CEO, the one who's really reaching out. Microsoft loves open source under his watch.
Yep.
What do you think this kind of signals regarding Microsoft's multi-cloud openness?
Well, if you look at the photographs, it kind of looks like you have your spiritual leader on the right and the personification of the devil on the left. It's a terrible photo of Larry. But
that's my fault, probably.
Yeah, right. But this is the next. I mean, this is very consistent with the whole multi-cloud movement. There should be interoperability. If you're going to live in an Internet of Things world, if you're going to live in a world where the Internet is supposed to connect everything and everyone in every possible way, then the core of your being has to be interoperability. Now, that doesn't mean that this runs here and that runs there. In the chart that you showed, I think Chris was right. The arrows point both ways, and I think what they're saying is, if you're operating in Azure, well, you'll easily be able to reach all of your Oracle resources. And if you're operating in Oracle, you'll be able to reach your Azure resources, and you won't have to jump. If you think about it, this is the core philosophy of Teams. They want Teams to be the single place people spend their entire day at. That is not new, right? Citrix introduced a product called Enfuse back in the early 1990s that was supposed to do the same thing, be the one place you stay all day so you can access everything. The same philosophy is here. Make it easy for everybody to use whatever they need to use from wherever they happen to prefer working. And that's great. I mean, that's great for everybody. Also, I think Satya's vision of their biggest challenge is that Microsoft was always considered to be the opposite of open, right? Here's open systems on this side, here's Microsoft on the other side. And when he announced that Microsoft loves open systems, what he was really trying to say to everybody was, Microsoft really is open. We are open. We are as open as anybody else. So, come here for open. Come here for MongoDB. Come here for, for Linux. Come here for I'm here for Oracle. If Satya can position Microsoft as that lingua franca for everything, I think he will have accomplished what he set out to accomplish since he became CEO.
Right.
That's maybe a huge statement, but you got to get this picture off the screen. I can't look at that.
I'm sorry. We're moving on to security. IT's favorite topic, security. And we're going to have kind of a lightning round for the security announcements at Inspire because none of it is new, but it's some good data from Microsoft, and it's a good introduction to some new-ish security products, security brands that IT might not know about yet. They haven't had a chance to play with. So I'm just going to put up this chart. This was shared at Inspire. It's always helpful to me to see how Microsoft categorizes its security products by usage because there's so many. The portfolio is so vast. It's just helpful to see what Microsoft is singling out to its partners to pitch to its IT customers, to their IT customers. So a lot of these are, you're familiar with the threat protection product, right? Microsoft Defender, it's kind of omnipresent. It's a huge brand, but Defender, Sentinel, and Endpoint Manager, those are the products that Microsoft is urging people to really hone in on when it comes to threat protection. What's new-ish is Microsoft Entra, this was just announced in May. Yeah, new-ish, Microsoft Entra. This is announced in May. It's a new brand. So all of Microsoft's identification services, including Active Directory and Azure AD, they're now under this Microsoft Entra umbrella. And besides those AD products, it's also getting a verified ID product, which is a decentralized identity product. And it uses blockchain to digitally attest a person's identity. And it's also getting a permissions management product, which you may know as Cloud Knox Security, to enforce least privileged access policies across all your cloud services. So that's Entra. It's identity, it's Active Directory. Coming up is a verified ID product based on blockchain, and the old Cloud Knox Security product for permissions management. So that's Entra. That's new-ish. Also new-ish are these two compliance and privacy management products that Microsoft talked up during Inspire, which is Purview, Microsoft Purview. It's not really, it used to just be called Azure Purview. Now it's Microsoft Purview. And that's a data governance service that integrates with some Microsoft 365 compliance products. And then Priva, which is something that I had to look up because I was like, what the heck is this? This is new from January. This is new for Microsoft 365 or Office 365. It's a privacy management product. So if you're confused about how to set up your IT profile, I find these sorts of infographics very helpful from Microsoft.
Yep.
And as a journalist covering Microsoft, I find these sorts of infographics very helpful as well.
Yep.
Howard, do you have? I hear you chuckling. Is it Howard or Chris?
Yeah.
the new-ish.
I have to tell you, I'm envisioning a shooting gallery with ducks in a row, and one of the ducks is Trend Micro, and another one of the ducks is Symantec, and another one of the ducks is Tanium, and Microsoft is shooting at all of them with these products. Entra is basically Microsoft Zero Trust, right? And it's absolutely something they should do, no question. I would be more comfortable if they just admitted it was Zero Trust. I didn't see that anywhere in Inspire, and I was surprised by that. They are now once again expanding their security portfolio to compete with everybody, which is fine. It's great. Microsoft should have entries there. There's no reason not to. You mentioned that Microsoft Purview used to be Azure Purview. Well, Azure used to be Microsoft Azure. So it's just, we're juggling names, that's all.
Right. And I forgot to put up these animations here, but you have some details about these new-ish things. It's still going to be hard to keep track of these things. I totally understand, but I think Microsoft was trying here. They were trying. And then
I think
here,
also,
this slide,
also you have to remember, and you published this several months ago, Microsoft recently announced that they're doing away with passwords. The password is dead.
Right, yeah.
Long live something else. But, Microsoft is one of the early entries into the FIDO Alliance, Fast Identity Online, FIDO. And this is an outgrowth of that. They are now starting to introduce FIDO-based products. And this is an alliance with Apple and Google and just about everybody else to say passwords are a bad idea. People use very weak passwords. People write their passwords on a sticky note and stick it under their keyboard. Yes, we know you're doing that. Passwords have always been a bad strategy. And now we're finally seeing them go away, and we're using digital tools to enable us to identify ourselves in a much more secure fashion. And that's all good news.
Great. This slide that's currently live for you right now, I put in there just to be nightmare fuel for our IT audience here. These are the scary, quote unquote, scary stats that Microsoft likes to share from time to time security-wise. And I thought the big thing for me here is that the average cost is $4.2 million per breach, which is astronomical to me. Obviously, an average is the average, so some cost very, very little. But then that must mean that some cost an enormous amount of money. So all those Microsoft products that we just had in the previous slide, the Entra, the Priva, the Purview, Defender, the Sentinel, this is the case for them, according to Microsoft. Security attacks everywhere.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see Satya announcing that, but I don't think anybody didn't know it. That security has been for a long time a top priority. I know he still feels the need to talk about digital transformation. Frankly, at this point, digital transformation is kind of like breathing. It's something everybody's doing every day. Applying technologies to improve their processes, to make life easier, better. That's something we do constantly now. And attacks are going to always increase. There's going to be somebody sitting on his bed, 400 pounds, whatever he is, who's inventing yet another way to attack. And there are 921 password attacks and 11 ransomware attacks. There's one ransomware attack every 11 seconds, which I think is even more frightening. Password attacks,
right.
You're counting iterative, stuff, but it's a frightening world, and we've got to protect ourselves. And I think the at this point, we have to protect ourselves better. And I'm hoping that Microsoft is turning this much attention to it because they realize that there's a need for better, and they can bring more mojo to it. And I hope that's the case.
Same. We'll see. Yeah, it'll be interesting how they follow this through line to the next couple of big events that they have, Ignite being the next one, I think, hopefully this fall. And then the last slide I want to focus on, because we are running out of time. We've had so much to discuss, a lot of good threads here. But the next one is that for IT, you may not know this yet, but your partners certainly do, is that Microsoft is encouraging partners to tailor their cloud services by industry. So if you fall into one of these industries, Microsoft is tailoring certain cloud solutions to fit your industry, and which is something that it's really encouraging its partners to sell. So you'll probably hear about it if you're in IT and you work in healthcare, then there's a cloud for you. So that's something that partners are getting a lot of messaging from, and a lot of encouragement from Microsoft to sell. So if you are curious about it, certainly ask your partner about these cloud-specific solutions. And I think that's actually all. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Howard. Last thought.
Yeah, if I can offer a little bit of deeper, because this is probably the most important announcement that they made at Inspire. You look at these, and one of the questions that should be occurring to you is, does this mean that Microsoft is introducing new financial services applications, new manufacturing applications, new healthcare applications? The answer is no. They're not introducing suddenly brand new applications for each of these that they'll run in the cloud for you. What they're doing, this is really a huge opportunity for those partners that Gladys is talking about. What they're saying is, here are ways in which you can apply the Power Platform and all of these other Microsoft platforms and tools to configure a cloud solution for financial services companies, for healthcare companies. And they're giving the partners tremendous guidance and tremendous resources in applying all of these platforms to each of these different vertical industries. That's very exciting because it gives you, the customer, a whole lot more control over what you get out of this. You can find partners now who can talk to you about how they'll use the Power Platform, Power Automate, and Power BI, and so forth, how they'll use those to create an environment that your healthcare facility will really benefit in the way you want it to, or your bank, or your retail store. I think this is actually the fullest realization of the Microsoft original vision that I've ever seen. It's Microsoft doing everything about making businesses run and putting data, putting every bit of information at everybody's fingertips. And this excited me more than anything else I heard this year at Inspire. I was inspired by this.
We're going to end on a pun, guys. We're going to end on Howard's pun. I hope that was helpful for you guys. Please stay tuned. We have a great session coming up in this Microsoft Inspire Summit. Stay tuned for the top of the hour. Thanks, Howard and Chris. Thanks, audience. Everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being here. To our earlier speakers, Howard Cohen and Chris Paoli, and of course to our sponsor today, Metallic, for underwriting this event and allowing us to bring you this great content. Once again, I'm Gladys Ramos. I'm the editorial director here at RedmondMag.com, and I'm also going to moderate the second session of our Microsoft Inspire 2022 Roundup. This session is called Modern BCDR with Metallic, DMAS, and Azure. Our speaker for this session is Jesse Grindeland, Vice President of Global Cloud Ecosystems and Go-to-Market at Metallic, a Commvault venture. Take it away, Jesse.
Hi, I'm Jesse Grundlin, Vice President of Cloud Ecosystems and Go-to-Market at Commvault, and I'm here to talk about modern BCDR, business continuity and disaster recovery, brought to you and with Metallic data management as a service, plus Azure, a match made in heaven. Companies today need modern BCDR strategies more than ever. And there are three main reasons that this is the case. First, as the world is moving more and more into this cloud ecosystem, cyber threats are growing. Estimated today, there are $20 billion, more than $20 billion of losses in 2021 due to ransomware alone. And what companies are doing and what you're seeing as the move to the cloud or the hybrid cloud or multi-cloud continues to grow, you're seeing your data sprawl across locations, whether it's on premise, whether it's in a private cloud, whether it's in a public cloud. And 80% of companies today, including you watching this video, probably have a hybrid cloud strategy. And with the hybrid cloud strategy, you're seeing your data sprawl across these entities. And as it sprawls, the attack surface for this most important asset that you have in your business grows. Lastly, and number three, we're expected to do more with less in this environment. And as we look at, and as we look at this space, 45% of businesses say they lack the funds to adequately prepare for ransomware, and 61% of companies believe they lack the expertise to deal with this. And this is what we're really looking at as we created Metallic with Microsoft. We're looking at these three big, well, let's call them problems or opportunities, but we're looking at these three threats and three realities as we really create a next generation BCDR solution together with Microsoft. Metallic, DMAS, plus Azure really do set the standard for modern BCDR. We provide unmatched data security and protection. This includes air-gapped and immutable backup to Azure, where we have introduced new technology in Metallic ThreatWise that provides you an early warning system. So not just the backup portion of this with the last line of defense that a disaster recovery or data management solution provides, where we've actually introduced this ThreatWise technology to provide early warning to prevent ransomware. The third thing that we provide inside of Metallic is Metallic Recovery Reserve, which is managed storage and a real last mile defense. This provides you your air-gapped and immutable backup. And we have multi-layered security beyond zero trust. And you'll find for our federal customers out there, Metallic plus Azure is the only FedRAMP High disaster or data management as a service solution. Again, unmatched data security and protection. We allow you to manage seamlessly across your data estate, wherever your data lives. And we can manage and protect all workloads with one SaaS-delivered solution, which is Metallic. We can protect your VMs, Kubernetes, databases, files, SaaS apps, endpoints, and much, much more. And we allow you in all of these things to securely back up to Azure, whether it's your on-premise data. We can back that up and be close to the source with Metallic, and we can send secondary copies to Azure. Third, it's SaaS delivered IT modernization and data mobility. What does this give you? This finally gives you the opportunity with a data management service to reduce your infrastructure costs for rapid deployment, simplified management, and scale on demand with the security of Azure. And it is all really built together to give you an unmatched solution for BCDR. And we really are setting the standard. Now, as we look at this, there are really two main reasons that Metallic plus Azure set the standard for BCDR. First is this. This is a co-engineered solution with Microsoft, and it's a partnership really built on trust. We've been working with Microsoft for over 20 years, delivering and really setting the standard for what business continuity and disaster recovery mean, whether it's on-premise or in the cloud with Azure. And Microsoft and Commvault today really rely on each other's technology. We're not just partners, we're also mutual customers. And together we are reshaping the data management industry with Metallic, SaaS-delivered management, and protection, all built on Azure. And the second is, this is technology. This is next generation SaaS-delivered data protection, but it's built on a technology that has evolved for the last 26 years. Commvault is a tried, true, and tested data protection technology, and Metallic really leverages all the greatness that Commvault has built over this time. We provide protection from the edge to the cloud to the data center. Nobody protects more workloads than we do today, whether you're VMware or AWS on the cloud side, or Oracle, Office 365, Linux, Hyper-V. I mean, the real list is it's not endless, but it is massive and second to none in the industry. And our analysts are recognizing this, both in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, where we're very proud of the fact that Commvault is a 10-time leader and has the highest score really across the 10 years, but in 2021 as it relates to the critical capabilities that you need to be protected. And then GigaOM. If you look at Commvault, Commvault is the only vendor to score the highest in all key criteria and evaluation metrics. Let me say that again. Commvault is the only vendor to score the highest in all key criteria and evaluation metrics. What does that mean? Commvault's technology is second to one, and Metallic is built on top of that, and leveraging now the power of Azure to deliver the value you need and the protection you need for, again, your most critical asset, which is your data. So modern BCDR must meet three critical use cases, and I'm sure you're seeing this across your environments. It must protect on-premise data and data moving to Azure. This is the hybrid use case. It must safeguard mission-critical data already running in Azure. And it must enable shared responsibility as it relates to the SaaS applications that you are utilizing today, whether it's Microsoft 365 or Dynamics or your endpoints. We must be able to augment and provide additional security and shared responsibility across these workloads, all being run and managed inside of Azure. So protect on-premise data and data moving to Azure, which is moving at a rapid pace. Safeguard mission-critical data already running in Azure, and enable shared responsibility models for SaaS applications. This is modern BCDR, and Metallic plus Azure really give you a solution that is unmatched in the industry today. Now, what do we do? And you can drive a little bit deeper into this multi-layered security and advanced protection that Metallic plus Azure are enabling. So across your entire data estate, whether it's on-premise, cloud, endpoints, or SaaS applications, we're able to provide what I call the bookends of data security and data protection. We have ThreatWise, which provides threat sensors and early alerts for ransomware threats. And all of our data is encrypted in flight and at rest. Now, when you leverage something like Metallic Recovery Reserve, which is managed cloud storage, we're able to provide an immutable and isolated air-gap solution for your data, for your backups, for all of your data as it moves into Azure, or it's sitting on premise and backed up as a secondary copy into Azure. And Metallic really provides enterprise-grade security controls, all developed on top of what is the most comprehensive enterprise-ready data protection solution that is Commvault. We provide Security IQ, which is early threat detection. We can detect anomalies. We can detect and analyze trends using machine learning and AI. And we can detect and manage and look at user behaviors, all giving you a new look and a more advanced look at your data estate and how people are accessing it and how it's being used. And we do this on top of the Metallic DMAS control plane, which is built on Microsoft Azure. Multi-factor authentication, zero trust access controls, and then Metallic Recovery Reserve, which really gives you this modern protected data storage solution. Again, this is built on Azure, and we do meet the highest security standards and protocols that are going to be important to you as you progress and as you're looking at how you're protecting your full data estate. So an end-to-end solution, all delivered through a SaaS experience that can protect both your on-prem and your cloud solutions through one single pane of glass, built in Azure, and ready to really support you as you are looking for ways and dealing with the three big reasons that modern BCDR is really required for you today. And so with Metallic, along with the full Commvault portfolio, we've really got you covered, whether it's data protection, data security, data compliance and governance, data transformation as the data is sprawling, as we talked about before, or data insights. We can provide new insights. And together with Azure, lots of insights on top of your data. And we do this really with three unique offerings, all built together and which can be managed through a single pane of glass, whether it's SaaS with Metallic, Metallic eDiscovery, or Metallic Recovery Reserve, or our software products for file storage optimization, data governance, e-compliance, or e-discovery and compliance, backup recovery, and disaster recovery. And then we have storage products that are, this is the on-prem plus the cloud with our Hyperscale X solution and distributed storage solutions. So really, we are, together with Azure, coming together to provide this modern BCDR solution built on top of tried, true, and tested technologies, both on the Microsoft side as well as the Commvault side, to deliver modern BCDR to meet the needs of your modernizing and transforming businesses and the data that this is continuing to build. And with that, I'd love for you to learn more and sign up for a free trial today, and you can do so at metallic.io/trial. And you can learn more about this joint solution with Microsoft at microsoft.com/metallic. Thank you very much for your time today.
Perfect. That was a great presentation, Jesse. Thanks for that. We actually now have Zach Brigman. He's a Senior Product Marketing Manager at Metallic, a Commvault venture, to help answer a couple of reader questions. Welcome, Zach, and thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you guys for having me.
Great. We have one question here from John. Cyber risks and ransomware are on the rise. What recommendations do you have around where to start our BCDR strategy?
Yeah, that's a great question and one that we encounter quite frequently, right? As you look across the landscape, ransomware just year over year, month over month, right? It's trending in the wrong direction, and it's a primary focal point for most businesses. Many businesses have, their unique approach to cloud or hybrid cloud. You have folks adopting new SaaS applications. You have data moving to the edge with remote workforce. You have cloud adoption as well as things coming back on-prem. No two customers really have the same environment or same journey, and we often get the question around what recommendations or where to start. I think the best feedback that we can provide is really start with the crown jewels. Where is your mission-critical data? Where is your mission-critical resources? And focus on fortifying and securing them first and scale out from there. We all have this evolving data footprint. We all have this massive sprawl that we have to try to wrangle and bring in under one hood and one umbrella. Really focus on prioritizing it based upon those mission-critical resources. What would be the most catastrophic if they were taken offline or potentially damaged? Focus on hardening them first with not only backup and recovery, but also with security capabilities in place to protect it at the perimeter, and really scale from there.
Great. And then we have another question here from Jonathan. What capabilities does Metallic offer in addition to native controls?
Yep, that's another good one. So whether, looking at the cloud or protection for SaaS apps, really what Metallic does is it picks up where the native capabilities fall off, really providing a number of different things around your data to make sure it's compliant and recoverable, things like extends retention, things like granular controls for being able to recover with speed, velocity, and scale. Things like dedicated SLAs to be able to pull data back and restore entire environments or unique resources in given time frames. So really being purpose-built around how we manage and protect your data, but also a layer of security, right? With Metallic, all data is stored in an isolated, air-gapped, immutable location. So it can't be tampered, it can't be altered. And the beauty there is the separation between the production environment and your data. So God forbid something were to happen natively in the environment, we have a preserved data copy that has its own security domain that prevents ransomware from leaping in or prevents damage outside of that production environment. So it really comes within twofold. First, the productivity gains and the ability to recover data at scale and with ease and with efficiency, but also that additional security lens. And I know Jesse had shared some around ThreatWise and some of the things that we've done to harden the application, but it starts with the architecture and then moves all the way through to controls that we provide to the end user to make sure that that data is safe, secure, and recoverable.
Great. And then we have another here from MJ, I think, who cottoned on to me introducing Metallic as a Commvault venture throughout the second session. And Zach, she asked, what is the relationship exactly between Commvault and Metallic?
Yep, another good one here. Metallic is Commvault's branch and line of SaaS-delivered data protection, and our focus was to give that enterprise-grade capability and scale and industry technology that Commvault has had for 20 years in the industry and deliver it in a SaaS offering, right? We've heard countless times customers wanted the ability to leverage the cloud and simplicity and improved cost efficiency, and that's what we had done with Metallic. So Metallic is Commvault's line of SaaS-delivered solutions. If customers want to consume SaaS-based technology, Metallic's your answer. If you're looking for software and something that you control on-prem, our Commvault line of solutions is the answer. But in the short, Metallic is that SaaS offering.
Perfect. And I do think that's all the questions that we have time for. Thank you again, Jesse, and thanks again, Zach, for joining us for our second session today. It was really great. And with that, audience, we'd also like to thank you for joining us today. And I have a couple of closing announcements before we announce today's winner. First, as you leave, you'll be asked to take a quick survey with your opinions of this event, so please do share your honest opinions. I read them, all the other editors read them, and they help us shape our future events. And speaking of future events, again, we want to thank our sponsor, Metallic. They're sponsoring this event because they believe in this community and they want to support more events like these. So please do show your support. They have a lot of content for you in the console on your right there. So check out their resources, visit their site, contact them for a demo, ask them some questions. It's through their underwriting of these events that we can bring you more events in the future. So finally, we have the winner of our random drawing. It is Roger Scott at WATBA. Again, that's Roger Scott at WATBA. Congratulations, Roger. You won today's prize, the Rad Mission 1 electric hybrid bike. Our team is going to be in touch with you on how to claim your prize. So congrats again. Thanks, Metallic. Thank you to our audience for attending. We hope it was helpful for you. Keep an eye out for your replay email in the next couple of days. Take the survey, check out Metallic's resources, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.